Guys are gonna go.
Okay, it being 6:30 according to my iPad, iPhone, on this meeting of Manchester by the Sea Select Board of Order. John,
Yes.
Anne's here, Kathy.
Here.
Brian.
Here.
And Jeff.
Here.
Great. The next item, first I should announce that the meeting is being recorded. The next item on the agenda are public comments on non-agenda items. See anybody in the online? Hi. So. Okay, a very short chairman's report that, on November 11th at 11 a.m. there will be a Veterans Day service at the Legion, indoors, and a collation to follow. This is their salute to the troops. And that was my chairman's report. Is there any?
Well done.
Okay,
Big as me.
You don't deserve it then.
are there any items to adjust or add to the, action items?
Just on there's one there listed as harbor audit, me and Jeff, and I don't know. I thought the last conversation we had on the harbor, there was gonna be a different approach on that, and I don't believe I have an action item, so. Maybe Tony could get that one updated.
Yeah, I think we could probably adjust that. It kind of ties into what the next steps are for
Right.
the harbor and the harbor master, right? So.
Yeah, I know, I remember, Jeff and Brian were gonna do some sort of independent audit.
Right, it should say
Did
Jeff.
they have an
Brian.
action there?
Oh,
Because his phone is so close.
yeah, get confused.
That's one
I
thing,
can say-
though, I'm not.
But you sit next to each other. So.
Not
by choice.
It was the only vacant seat at the time.
I'm on my way out the door here.
I'm a little closer than you want. You are.
Yeah.
So we will adjust the harbor.
Yeah, I'll catch up with Jeff and Brian and figure out what's the best way to update this list. And then how we're moving forward.
Okay. So we move on to our agenda, with the first item of which is Jennifer Journey, who has applied for the Downtown Improvement Committee, or whatever they're calling themselves these days.
That looks right, yeah.
Okay, would you like, we've got your application, which is more complete than many. Would you like to say a couple of words about what you would bring to that committee?
Sure, absolutely, that's for Jim.
Yeah, well, I'll just quickly just say, I interviewed Jen or Paige.
I go by my middle name,
But
Paige, sorry, but here, Jen.
And she is originally from Manchester by the Sea. Has recently moved back to Manchester by the Sea. Is eager to get involved in the community, very interested in the downtown improvement committee. We talked a lot about the things that the downtown improvement committee are working on. I'll let you speak a little bit to some of the specific interests, but I liked some of the things that Paige kind of brought up was that she complimented how a lot of the good things that Manchester by the Sea already does and provides opportunity for residents of all different ages. But talked about like this other kind of layer of a place to congregate, especially young families that we already have a lot of the programs, we have the parks, we have the playgrounds, we have those things, but there isn't like that next kind of common area.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. She understands the commitment requirement, very, very eager, and I thought, her enthusiasm, really just came right out as soon as we started talking about what was in front of us, so.
Great, thank you, Tony. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Select Board. As Tony mentioned and mentioned, my name is Paige Journey and I live at 7 Tanglewood Road. As I shared with Tony, I grew up here in town. I know many of you and your families. And my husband and I and our 3 young children recently moved back to town. And I've been really eager to get back and involved in the community. My professional experience has been in the corporate human resources space. And I currently serve on the board at the Manchester Memorial PTO at the elementary school and for the Manchester Mothers Club. And when I learned of the opening on the Downtown Improvement Committee, I was eager to apply when I learned about its mission and the work that they're doing. I'm looking forward to learning from and partnering with the existing members, businesses, and other community members in this role. And I particularly hope, and what I spoke at length to Tony about, was that I hope I can represent the perspective of some younger families with children as we continue to preserve and improve upon all of the special things that make Manchester so wonderful. I understand the commitment and I'm willing to serve, and I sincerely appreciate the support and your consideration in joining the committee. Thank you.
Questions?
I had a nice conversation with Paige today as the liaison to the committee. I think she would be a fantastic addition to the committee, and she brings a different perspective, one that is sorely needed on the committee. So I would really love to see her join.
With 3 kids, I don't know how you do it, but, and they're young kids, fairly young kids, I saw what the story is, but that's great.
No.
Yes, great perspective you'll have.
I just, excuse me. I want to thank you, okay? You bring a whole perspective of next generation who grew up here.
Yeah.
You, Ty Pinstein. Ty
Yes.
Pinstein was very instrumental in bringing the carnival back,
Yes, absolutely.
okay? And so it's about time you guys started.
I know. You guys step up.
But not here for much longer, so. No, I thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you got a great resume. Yeah, I don't really have anything, but thank you for stepping up to do this.
Well, thank you for the consideration.
Thank you. Is there,
A motion?
yes?
Yes, there is. I move that the board appoint, it says Jennifer Page,
Thank you.
Journey to the Downtown Improvement Committee for a term to expire on June 30th, 2028.
Second.
Yes,
Further discussion?
no, and yes.
Okay. And says yes,
I say yes.
Kathy, Brian,
Yes.
and Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Mary
This is what
Page.
it is really nice to see people who are very busy with their lives getting involved in keeping the downtown going and busy, and all I can suggest is that you get involved slightly with the right house, the community, no, come on,
The Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, both that.
Yes, good guidance.
Yeah. Great.
Excellent.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good.
So we'll let you go back to your family for one.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
We now move on to the discussion items, and the first one. Would anyone object if we took the White Beach parking earlier, because I think we have somebody here who's interested in it.
I think we have some people online who are interested too, yeah.
My property is right beside White Beach. And it is concerning that there's so much going on there. You know, people, there are a lot of cars that are not ticketed, there are campers there that stay overnight. It's really affecting my real estate value.
Excuse me, can we introduce herself?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not used to this.
Yes.
It's Pamela Nelson, 23 Ocean Street, yeah. So, I've just moved to Magnolia, but I'm keeping my home at 23 Ocean Street, so. I'm a very good friend of Brenda Furlong's. I'm surprised she's not here tonight because he's going to be supporting her. It's just a very concerning thing because it's really affecting I feel it really is affecting my real estate value.
Okay.
And, I just would like some more restrictions on it and supervision of what's going on.
Okay, is your concern primarily parking or?
Parking and people spending nights there. You know, it's not as bad as it used to be. It used to be very, very bad. But it's a lot better since there's been some parking attendants going around. But that's finished at 5 o'clock at night. And anyway, so that's just basically what I was just really supporting Brenda's position. Because it affects me, not that it affects her.
Is there anybody online who would like to comment on this?
Sorry, I'm hard of hearing.
I'm sorry, I'm asking generally if there's anybody online who would like to comment on the parking situation at White Beach.
I don't know.
Okay, well, no, that question really was not addressed to you, it was sort of
No.
Tony and anybody else who is looking at
You're
the,
looking over your shoulder.
yeah, right.
I know there are definitely some people online who are usually interested in this topic,
Okay,
but they're not,
nobody has.
they're not unmuting themselves.
Okay, and there are no hands up.
No.
Okay,
Well,
thank you
that's
for,
all I really have to say.
thank you for your thoughts, but let's,
It'd be great if we could just have some more help from the town.
okay, let's let the board talk for a few minutes.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
John,
Yes, the overnight parking thing, I don't know that that's ever been addressed in the past. But I think I recall in the years here, maybe that has come up as a topic, and that's a valid comment.
Mhm.
And that's not something that could not be addressed by the police department in evenings. I mean, they're cruising around town and there's no reason they couldn't include Ocean, and I assume they do include Ocean.
Mhm.
They just, that there isn't any rule against that right now. And obviously your position is, I guess at this point, it would solve, I guess, your biggest problem if we said no overnight parking. Is that correct?
Would be great.
Okay, all right, so. I'd have to consider that. I don't know what the pluses and the minuses are. I can see what the pluses are from your perspective.
Mhm.
And in general, it makes it a quieter place to live overall. But I don't know how frequent overnight parking is there, but it's a fair comment.
Tony, have you talked at all with the police chief about?
Yeah, I spoke with the police chief. I went down, took a look. We definitely added signage this year and added enforcement with the parking attendants. There's a lot of signage down there, but it says resident parking only May 1st to October.
Yeah.
1st, maybe. So it doesn't clearly state whether if overnight parking is not allowed currently. I don't, according to the signage, it would be allowed. And then, of course, as of today, there's no restrictions whatsoever.
Right.
It's only that part of the calendar year. In speaking with the police office, with the police department, there's definitely cases where there's people who are not residents parked either overnight or during that time period. There hasn't really been an issue of the entire area being filled with cars. Like that'll happen once or twice a season, really hot weekends, things like that. And in that case, they're usually going down there and dealing with it. But on a typical basis, if somebody's parked there who isn't a resident, but there's plenty of spaces and they're just stopped to kind of look at the ocean and, whatever, read the paper or something like that. Our officers aren't really giving them a hard time in that scenario. So I do think that overnight parking is not allowed at Singing Beach in that parking lot. Now, obviously, that's kind of a different setup than what we have at White Beach, but I don't see what the issue would be to propose an overnight parking restriction at that property. And if you wanted to expand the resident parking beyond just that season, that's something we could consider as well.
I think that overnight parking we could, I don't see a problem with that at all. I think that we should look at that very closely as far as expanding the season or as far as non-residents. I wouldn't touch that. I would just look at the overnight parking, because that seems to be the biggest problem that we have. And then during the season, just talk to the chief about increased patrolling down Ocean Ave. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, yeah, the overnight parking thing I can see, but limiting it further just to residents, I don't. I've never been through there when there wasn't a place to park for a resident. I mean, like you said, maybe it's here or there a couple times a year for a couple of hours, but I don't think it's really an issue.
And I'm gonna guess that most of the people that are residents anyway, who just don't want to.
Right, most,
Singing Beach anyway.
There were
40,
40 citations issued, so between. This is January 1st to September 26th, but obviously that. Those tickets wouldn't start being issued until May, so it's really May to September 26th. There were 40 tickets issued for non-resident parking there. So there's some enforcement occur, it's not like it's not happening.
I don't
We're
want
not enforcing
saying
anything.
that we're ignoring that.
Yeah.
That area, which
Yeah.
we're not. But I do think that, because we had an issue over the summer. I think, was there a,
Yeah, there was some
Oh, yeah.
website
Oh,
that
what
was
was that?
advertising singing and White Beach as places to camp out overnight. And it was, I believe, the Singing Beach issue was addressed. It was not clear whether or not anybody did anything about the White Beach. And what I heard from residents were overnight people weren't just parking there. There were fishermen off the coast who were walking on private property, so trespassing. And so there were emails to the police or calls to the police. And so I think there's a general discomfort with strangers walking around the area in the middle of the night, and I can certainly understand that. I'm glad you looked at the signage, because I always believe the signage should be clear on what's allowed and what's not allowed. So if there's no signage saying that overnight parking is not allowed and people park there, the police can't do anything about it, right?
Well, unless it's in the period when it's residents only.
But even the enforcement for residents only is only till like 6 o'clock or whatever. There's really no resident parking enforced after the parking enforcement, attendants leave for the day. So I think I would ask for two things. If we all are in general agreement that we don't want overnight parking at our beaches, let's just put up the signs and say no
Yeah.
overnight parking.
Yeah.
To me, that's a simple, just go do.
Mhm.
What is overnight?
That's a really good question. What is the rule at Singing Beach, I guess, and can we be consistent and apply it to White Beach is what? So I thought there was it was prohibited to park overnight at Singing, and they actually block it off. Maybe they don't block it off, but I thought there was some signage prohibiting, and I think the residents were asking for, similar care at White Beach. Why treat it differently? Or if we are treating it differently, then what's the rationale?
I mean, it
We have
seems to me like,
some residents who could probably answer those questions.
yeah,
Let me apologize. Pam was here and we took up the Ocean Street early, so, which probably you were counting on our being a little later. So, yeah, this, Kathy,
I would like to hear from the residents.
okay, yes. Friend, Mrs. Furlong. You need to give us your name and address for the record, and then
Brenda Furlong, 19 Ocean Street. Maybe you could help us a little bit by telling us what you've discussed about Ocean Street just briefly.
Yes, Mr. We started off by talking about, Pam actually initiated or helped us kickstart the conversation. And overnight parking was an issue that was brought up. That the effects of some of the parking issues down there may have a negative impact on the real estate value. That parking enforcement is good, but it stops at 5 p.m. and there could be more enforcement. Then we just talked a little bit about how, what type of signage is there right now. And then it's really just restrictive to resident parking from May to October. That's what the signage says. So we were just starting to kind of go down the road of how could we explore changing the parking rules at White Beach that would prohibit overnight parking.
Well, I guess our observation is that Singing Beach has a prohibition of overnight parking. Parking ceases at 10 o'clock at night. It has a sign saying that you will be towed if in fact you are parked later than 10 o'clock. And I think White Beach deserves the same kind of protection. We have an issue because we have a lot of trespassers on our property. And it occurs at night, many times at 1 o'clock in the morning. And we have fishermen that come into our backyards and fish from 1 o'clock in the morning till 3:30, 4 o'clock or thereabouts. We can hear their voices from our bedroom. We can see their headlamps flashing into our bedroom. And I think having overnight parking eliminated would resolve some of that problem. The other issue is I think we would like to have more enforcement of the parking regulations during the daytime as well. Many times I drive by the beach, I probably go by it 3 or 4 times a day. And I have a tendency, I'm a financial person, I have a tendency to kind of count how many resident stickers there are and how many non-resident stickers there are. Generally, in my observations during the height of the summer, we'll see maybe 50%, sometimes even a little bit more, don't have Manchester parking stickers. So I think a combination of eliminating overnight parking and stronger enforcement would be a real benefit to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Mr. Furlong, do you have?
Chuck Furlong, 19 Ocean. I think Brenda summarized the salient issues quite well. I'd add a little history. We lived there, I think, for 29 years, so we know the turf. Been in town for over 50. The enforcement used to be, there was a beach attendant and there was a parking attendant. And for those of you who recall the oft quoted Mr. Barletta's predecessor often said, this town rarely surrenders services that it's providing. But somehow they made an exception for White Beach and those services disappeared. So instead of having somebody policing the beach and ticketing appropriately cars that shouldn't be parked there, we lost that service. So I guess in some respects, we're simply asking that you restore what used to be, which seemed reasonable. And that I confess on a personal level, I find it really irritating at 2 o'clock in the morning to have people out in my backyard with their headlamps and their car parked over at White Beach. So if you could see your way to implementing the same parking regulations at White Beach as at Singing Beach, I think we go a long way towards solving.
So, the parking at Singing Beach stops at 10. When does it start again?
Yeah,
Is
you
it
have to have a
11?
starting time. Like 10 to 6 or something, or is it?
John, I don't know, I don't know when it starts, Parks and Rec could tell you that, but
Mhm.
let's face it, after dark is when all the mischief happens, right? I do have some empathy for people that are trying to catch a bass. I just don't like them on the coming tide at that hour of the evening on my property.
Well, that's why you gotta put an hour on the other end, because fishermen know no clock.
Yeah.
They run by the
I
tide.
leave it to the town's best
Okay.
judgment, whatever it is for Singing Beach, we'd welcome for White Beach.
So we were talking as you guys walked in, and I think that was something we were deliberating here as a board. It seems like a just go do if we're all agreeing that we shouldn't have overnight parking at White Beach. Can we put up a sign? Can we agree to that? Can we put up a sign and just have the rules be the same?
Mhm.
Is that okay? Does anybody object to that? Sounds like an easy fix to me, but
That makes an actually sensible fix too.
is that sensible? Oh,
There's been some discussion that from the board members, that there's rarely a case when there's no parking available. And that was offered as a reason not to ticket out of towners. And I think if we've got signs up all over saying, no, this is resident parking only, we ought to enforce what we do, or we should put up signs that say resident parking only if it's crowded.
No, I don't think we said that. I think what we said was that there was no reason to expand the season,
Okay,
all
yes,
right?
Okay.
Is that,
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's.
we weren't,
Well, and I
I
look
agree
at
with
it
you.
more, the reason I brought it up is in relation to, as Mr. Furlong was talking about how there used to be an attendant there.
That goes way back though.
That, I think if we were dealing with, every spot being filled and constantly dealing with non-resident stickers, filling those spots, i.e. residents aren't having spots available to them when they show up, then I'd be a little bit more open to, hiring staff to be stationed there. That not being the case doesn't seem like that's the consistent case. I think, our parking attendants and enforcement can be stepped up off the, hours off the parking attendants. Should be able to handle it in that sense.
I'm sure that the beach attendant was part of Parks and Rec.
Mhm.
And I can understand the Ocean Street residents looking at the extent of the parking of the beach attendants, not the lifeguards, but there are a lot of people at Singing Beach. And there used to be somebody at Tux, and there used to be somebody at White Beach. And it appears that everybody has congregated at Singing. And perhaps that's something that.
it would be good to understand the staffing changes, because obviously something changed, right? And there may have been a good reason for that. Like you said, if you drive by Ocean Street and there's always parking available, maybe that was the reason why Parks and Rec consolidated, the resources.
But I mean, we're talking, this is probably 30+ years ago. It's not recent.
I don't recall.
Don't look at me, I don't know.
they used to have an attendant at Tux. That
At
disappeared
Tux.
15 years ago.
Well, they've had them as
They've
recently
had
as
them
2
there.
years ago.
Yeah,
No, I haven't seen them in quite a few years.
No, they had a gentleman that passed away.
yeah. And there was a girl there too.
And then Mike Cronin, I don't know if he did it this year, but there has been a presence.
But maybe
In fact,
if there's.
Heather's mother got yelled at 2 years ago.
We.
I think-
You should check with Parks and Rec and see if there's some way that.
A change was made, right?
Was made.
It likely, I'm guessing, because I wasn't here, likely was due to budget pressures, right? But the question is, what's been the effect of that? And has anybody looked to see, what the effect?
Or,
of it
yeah, it
was?
could also be, ability to staff, to get people.
To do it, to
to-
stay there all day,
It's,
yeah,
it's.
Or
really
even
more
to take
imposed.
job.
right, exactly.
As I recall, Tuck was always a retired job.
Oh, there were kids, there
Yeah.
were
Well,
kids who did
in
it.
the last 5 or 6 years.
No, there's been some kids there too.
But the input I've gotten from the police department is not, it doesn't seem like having someone stationed there consistently is really necessary at the moment. I think we've done a lot of ticketing so far. We could step up more outside of those hours.
Madam
I think-
Chairman,
I
if I, and Tony, if I may, if I could interject, we're not asking for a full-time parking attendant, okay? We're asking for some supervision over the existing parking regulations and to have the evening parking regulations mirror what's at our major other public beach, okay? It would be unrealistic, given the, staffing of the police department to expect that they would be able to have a full-time thing, so please, we're not that unreasonable. That's not the request.
They did say, you know, right around 4th of July is where like it kind of like really heightens up. Would you agree with that? Is there
When
usually?
it gets warm, and a lot of it has to do, that's a very tidal beach, okay, so at high tide, there's almost no beach. At low tide, if it's a nice low tide at noon time, you
Okay,
know, the beach is crowded, but if there's a high tide at the wrong time from the beachgoer's standpoint, quite frankly, the beach won't be that crowded. So that it's a combination of things, but
so I think we could factor that into our approach on enforcement. You know, on the middle of the summer, hottest days,
And where are the tides?
midday low tides, you know, we can be a little bit more consistent on the,
Yes.
you know,
But
going
the other
by.
way to look at it is it's a revenue source.
So to Ann's earlier point, I think when the furlongs came in, we were having a discussion about, you know, have you ever had a problem finding a space at White Beach, right? And the police may not want to hassle people, you know, non-residents, if there's plenty of parking available for residents. So I think then, Ann, you were talking about, well, if the sign says resident only, we should enforce resident only. So we were starting to have that discussion. I don't think we finished that discussion.
No.
I think the other issue is, you know, I'm a big believer, the sign needs to match what you're going to enforce. So if we don't want to enforce, you know, resident only parking when there's 5 parking spaces available, there's got to be a way to communicate that. We've got to be clear on what we're doing, because it does confuse people.
I think,
I don't know what to do about that.
respectfully, I
Yeah.
think the police department should be provided some discretion.
Yeah.
And they can make decisions that they feel are necessary. If it's a Tuesday morning and it's one non-resident sitting there reading the paper, I don't think we need to issue a citation. If it's a Saturday and even though there's 5 spots, you know, and it's midday, maybe we are, I think they have the ability to make the right decision.
I'm okay with discretion. I'm not okay with the residents not understanding what we're doing. So I think, I'm not sure if this is the
Yeah.
first time they're hearing that.
as
The
long
other
as-
thing,
if I may,
Yeah.
Kathy, as long as discretion doesn't just become, well, I don't have to do that.
right,
You know,
Right,
which is a
right,
very easy path,
Yes.
okay? So there has to, whoever the new chief is at, next summer, you know, we can, hey, yeah, get a fresh start. I've had this discussion with Todd. Todd, I've known Todd for 4+ decades. He used to plow our driveway, now his son plows our driveway, you know, I mean, so there's always been a good, robust, honest dialogue. And frankly, there's never been any real disagreement about what should happen there. It's generally been overstaffing. Okay, so what I would like to see, and I would make the point that Parks and Rec is 100% enterprise funds. It's not tax revenue. So
The parking fees, however, the parking enforcement, parking tickets are revenue.
yes.
I agree with that, and they're definitely bifurcated in who's gonna do what, right? I mean, Parks and Rec is gonna be on the beach, and the police are gonna be issuing tickets if they, that's who does what. I'm simply saying that it would be nice, and I don't know if any of you have visited White Beach on a nice summer day in August on a weekend. It's pretty busy. And I'd venture to say, based on Brenda's count of the vehicles that have or don't have stickers, we also missing an opportunity because we don't enforce the badge requirement. And it costs money to go to Singing Beach, but you can be dropped off at White Beach and go park at the school, and you can drop 5 people off there and come back. So you can game the system a lot of ways. All we're asking for is some common sense and, a degree of improved parking enforcement, but most importantly, to mirror the parking restrictions after 10 o'clock at night. There's no reason anybody has to park at White Beach after 10 o'clock at night.
So,
Are there regulations, is it under Singing Beach or under police bylaws that speak specifically to what that parking rule is at Singing Beach?
There's actually a lot of signage at Singing Beach and every year it seems to change. So honestly, I would drive down there tomorrow when it's daylight, take a picture and see what's there. But
Well,
does
I'm
ch-
just,
yeah.
I could draft something for you guys to vote on next meeting, or you guys could vote tonight to say
I
We're in
would
favor
like to just make a
mirroring
motion
Singing
to have
overnight.
consistent overnight parking regulations between Singing Beach and White Beach. So, you know, whatever that restriction is, let's do it to White Beach. Now, is there any issue at Tux at all? While we're talking beaches, is there any issue there? Or because that not specifically on the agenda, we can't talk about it? Because if we're gonna do something about
Probably
overnight
both.
parking, I'd just like to be
No,
consistent.
That's the problem with that.
There's overnight parking, at Tux for, people who are
The
taking
boat.
boats.
Yes, they get the boating placards
Yeah,
or
yeah, well, residents, of course,
don't need
don't
it.
need a park, so I think Tux is a different,
Yeah, they are, because of the boats.
yeah.
But that's okay. We're talking something different here. White Beach.
So I would like to know, I don't know if there is a starting time on the overnight parking, but we should have that at both beaches. If it just says 10 PM, I think that's a little soft. It should be, 10 to 5 or 10 to 6 AM or something.
So do you want to clarify what the
Yeah.
rule is at Singing? At our next meeting, we can take a vote on specific times.
Can we
And
have the
if-
police chief too?
Yeah, have Todd here. And then also if there's some improvement needed to Singing because there's no start time, as John is alluding to, we can just fix everything all at once. Is that okay?
Mhm.
Yeah,
This was just a discussion and with
yeah,
no requirement that we come up with a final answer, I think,
No.
next week, next 2 weeks. from now.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
3
Yeah,
weeks.
2 weeks.
Oh, right, 2
2
weeks.
weeks,
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks from tonight, we'd have a motion to
Right.
fix.
Just to give you another example, we talked about the fishermen, but we had an incident this summer where there was a motor vehicle parked. It was a large recreational vehicle that had an awning out and a dining area and everything. It was parked for 2.5 days just below Mrs. Nelson's house. And no one came by and ticketed or anything. Ultimately, the vehicle left after 2.5 days. I don't know if it was because the police finally asked them to move, or whether it was simply they were done staying there. But you have somebody camping at the beach, using the porta potty, dining all their meals there, et cetera. And it's really hard for the neighborhood to deal with that.
So I think that speaks to the discretion part goes both ways, right? So if the police are gonna have the discretion to not ticket a non-resident, there's gotta be some understanding about what the boundaries of that discretion are, right? Camping out for 2.5 days. I'm not a big fan of that.
No, well, particularly if we're going to decide not to allow anybody to be
Right,
there at all after
Right.
10.
right.
Yeah, I can't believe they were residents. It's possible.
No, they don't.
No,
It was
yeah.
foreign
It was
license plate.
actually a vehicle with Canadian plates.
Yeah.
Canadians.
Ah,
Ah,
Yeah.
I don't think there was, once we, were made aware of it, I believe our police department went and talked to the folks who were in that vehicle.
This I think happened sometime around the Festival by the Sea, I think early August, because I remember this conversation coming up. Yeah, I think you were part of this conversation too.
But yeah, that would overnight parking, if that's what's gonna be on the sign, that there's gonna be no discretion involved in
No,
that.
Right.
This is no overnight parking year round.
Yeah,
Year round, yes.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll clarify what the rule is for overnight parking at Singing Beach.
Mhm.
And if it's written down anywhere, if it has a start and time. And then draft something for us to talk about or potentially vote on at the next meeting.
Sounds good.
And I'll invite the chief and I can invite Cheryl too if you want.
Yeah,
that might be helpful.
I think that would be good.
Should get nothing to.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
Sounds good.
thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you for your consideration and putting it on the agenda.
yeah,
We'll try and put it on.
it'll be on next time.
Next, we'll try and put it in early next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is the town administrator's goals. John,
I saw your write-up. I think it's really good.
Simple.
They're your goals, they're our talking points. So I appreciate that outline in terms of what we have to keep up, but I think it's it touched all the bases from my perspective. I hope that you can get to most of them. I don't think you probably get to all of them because that's a full plate. But I don't know if we need to discuss prioritization. I hadn't really thought about that. We could, but at this point, this really reflects what, you know, what you really got to keep your eye on each Monday morning and kind of take a look and say, all right, what am I going to work on this week? That's good.
I'm just looking at this one communication. Oh, by the way, nicely done, formatted.
Yeah.
AI is a wonderful
If this wasn't AI.
thing. I can tell.
It's gotta be a spelling error somewhere.
Can we, I think the people have grown accustomed to, the town administrator's article every week. So, and I think twice a month is great. If we can talk maybe about getting department heads to, backfill those other two weeks. You know, having a rotating kind of thing, be it, Chuck one day, you know, Cheryl, Council on Aging, something like that. Just, it keeps the lines of communication that the people are used to looking towards, in the cricket. And that's
And it
the only thing.
helps build their skill set.
That's an idea.
It helps build their skill set. As well.
Other than that, everything's fine with, basically you just truncated everything we talked about last time. I'm done. Let's move on.
I'm good, looks good, and thank you, everything looks fine, so.
Yep, no, I thought the rewrite was excellent. And I think to John's point, if you need us to help with prioritization, let us know. Otherwise, I'm sure you can deal effectively with that, but we're here if you need to talk to us about that.
Short-term rental bylaw.
Okay, it's just,
Quite a lot of people
Yeah.
from
yeah,
the house.
Yeah,
well. So this was added to your action item list before I started. So not really, I guess it would be helpful for me to understand what, how this got on the action item list, what you guys were envisioning. There is a short-term rental bylaw in our general bylaws
Yes.
now, and they're defined in the zoning bylaws as well.
But we use 6 days where
Right.
Yeah,
I think
it's,
our initial concern was to expand it from six days to 28 or 30, whichever I believe that.
Yeah, so I would say one of the
State's
things that
30.
precipitated it was when the state created a new ADU bylaw, ADU regulations. And we're like, okay, if there's gonna be more ADUs, are there gonna be more short-term rentals? How, we want real housing stock, not vacation spots, right? So it was about not letting the ADU law change the, makeup of the town. We want that for housing. So that was priority one. Priority, the reason for number two, or the second reason I should say, was because John and I went with Greg to that annual conference,
MMA.
MMA conference.
Mhm.
And we went to the booths that the people who had the software that said, told us how many short-term rentals we really have. And it was more than the 2 or 3 that we approve each year.
Mhm.
So we don't have control over our short-term rentals, and in big part to Ann's points, because we define them as 6 days. So those were the 2, I would say, impetuses for us to get something on the books that's different than what we have. We talked about Greg, I think, and I talked about also looking at Provincetown. They seem to have a real big to-do over there, because they're also a seaside community. And they spent a lot of time thinking through their short-term bylaws and seem to have a good model, but we didn't get very far on that because we were focused on getting the ADU, updates in place for Manchester. But I would say the ADU was kind of the.
I think I think the ADU bylaws that were voted on prohibited short-term rentals, so it's, so.
Yes, but if our short-term rentals are defined as 6 days,
Right.
So,
right?
2 weeks.
Yeah. A month.
I don't know, God made the world in 7 days. Why don't we just go there? Good enough
There
for
were
him.
7 little one days, because the sun wasn't up.
If it's good enough for him,
So-
it's good enough for us.
I think the other thing I was questioning, and I don't recall what the answer was, but we have this less than 6 consecutive nights short-term definition. Then somewhere else in our bylaws or regulations, rentals must be a minimum of 6 months or something. There's something
Yes.
somewhere
Yeah.
about the 6
Right.
months.
Lodging,
6 months, I think, was that not
it's
in?
lodging or something.
Lodging, okay, so I don't understand what happens between, for rental agreements between the
8.
6 days and the 6 months. What, that seems like a dead zone,
Mhm.
completely lacking control. And I just personally felt we ought to tighten it, have something, even if
Yeah.
we don't want to worry about it, but we should clearly outline what the right thing to do is in each stage.
Yep.
How does that impact what we have? Seasonal rentals versus winter rentals,
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying, none of it's regulated.
That's a cottage industry here.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
And to try
Yeah, I
to try
think
to.
6 months is a little awkward if you're renting for the winter.
Right.
Right.
So it's got-
Right.
Most times it's like 8 to 10 months. I've seen, starting, October 1st right through May 1st or something like
And that's
that.
fine. But it's the 3 months, for those people who are renting out their homes for 3 months.
Mhm.
It's completely unregulated. It just seems
Yeah.
odd, we regulate things that are less than a week, more than 6 months, and everything in between is nothing.
Did your conference have any suggestions as to how you identify people who are doing short-term
Yeah,
rentals?
the software does.
It's got on Airbnb.
Well,
Airbnb,
actually,
Vero.
they're required to be licensed with the state. So what we did in Nahat was we reached out to the state and they provided us a list of all the short-term rental license in Nahat. So we started with that. And then we used that list. Once we went through our process and everything got voted and everything was in place, we used that list to then send letters out to those property owners, telling them you're now required to be, if you're in this category, you're required to be licensed. If you're in this other category, you're required to get a special permit and a license. And that's how we communicated with those.
Do they require any insurance requirements or no?
Well, you're required,
Your insurance-
to be on Airbnb or VRBO, like they require you
They
to carry
require,
insurance,
okay.
yeah.
I would think the homeowners, if they told their insurance company was going on, they probably have to have insurance too.
I would hope so.
Right,
That'd be
yeah,
involved.
that's good.
That's between them and their insurance.
We had-
company.
So we went through probably almost a 3-year process What started with adopting the local hotels tax, and then creating a bylaw committee, who then did a two-year process of public meetings, looking at other towns, thinking about how they wanted to propose bylaws. Through that process, we found that there was so many elements of it that if you put forward a bylaw that listed every single detail of all these different issues, that people were very like polarized on one way or the other, it would never pass. So we put forward a general bylaw and a zoning bylaw, and the general bylaw authorized the select board to promulgate regulations. Once that was done, then we went through the process of the select board promulgating the regulations. We did bring on a new software company that was specifically for permits for short-term rentals. That is called Cloud Permit. And then we had to create, the website, we had to create the process, the application, create a fee schedule. There's a lot of layers to it. On the zoning side, it was really about what type of short-term rental and where are they gonna be allowed. So you had owner occupied, non-owner occupied, and owner adjacent. There's you have owner occupied in your definition today. Owner occupied doesn't mean that you are actually occupying the property while renting. It just means that that's your primary residence. So you live there for 6 months of the day. And there's really hard for a municipality to track that as to whether that's legitimate or not. So if we want to improve our current regulations or current bylaw, we have kind of a model that we can follow. I would say that, the key elements, one, knowing that larger properties are usually the more problematic short-term rental properties. And unfortunately, they kind of paint the reputation of all short-term rentals. There's a lot of 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom type short-term rentals happens, that people who moved out of town maybe rent, they come back for the summer, for a couple weeks in the summer, and it's not a problem at all. But those larger ones tend to be where, parties, large gatherings. Sometimes they'll even do like events where someone rents a large property and then they'll host like a reunion or a wedding in the backyard, and they'll get a tent and they'll get a caterer. That is really, once you get into inviting people who aren't staying at the Airbnb onto the property for an event, you're now in violation typically of your zoning rules, because it's a change of use. It's no more a residential primary use residential. It's now getting into like a business.
Shacks, didn't
But we focused a lot, we looked a lot at the safety, which yours isn't bad. There's a lot in there already. It talks, sorry, ours, I should say ours really does have a lot in there about the safety of the user. So sometimes, people who show up late at night for a weekend rental, they're not familiar with the property yet. They don't know whether the smoke detectors have batteries in them. They don't even know what, sometimes they don't even know the address. They're a guest of someone else who's the main, renter. And, so we focused a lot about the safety of the people who are staying in the house, making sure that there's a packet that talks, that gives them all that information, that there's something on the wall, right, when you walk in, that shows where the exits are, what the local phone numbers are for, safe, yeah. We also wanted them to be licensed with the town so that our police and fire department knew where these were. So they were familiar with the location of them.
In Nahant, did you restrict where, I mean, Nahant's tiny, even tinier than Manchester, did you restrict at all where a short-term rental could be?
The type, so, what we proposed for the zoning bylaw was that you'd have to get a special permit for non-owner occupied in a residential district. And then we went to town meeting and a large group of people showed up and actually amended it to not allow non-owner occupied in the residential district completely. The problem with that is, again, it's really hard for us to enforce whether someone really is or isn't living there 6 months in a day. So I felt like the special permit was a better way to go, because then if the property is being a nuisance in any way or it's unsafe, the ability for the town to pull that special permit has more teeth to it.
Yep. That
Right?
makes sense.
So
This is beginning to sound like a bigger problem. And I think it's perhaps something that the select board shouldn't take on its own, but instead we need to get involved with the planning board.
Mhm.
And perhaps the planning board.
I hesitate to bring this up. But what the heck? What about Board of Health inspections? Okay.
yeah, so they would, to get a license, you'd have to get a sign off. The building inspector would have to sign off on your property. Actually, public health, same thing. So if you were to rent an apartment out long-term, you really should have a certificate of fitness from the Board of Health. So we would require that as well.
But what about if it's short-term, say it's, if we set up, it's 2 weeks or something like that. Every time a new tenant, every time it's rented, it should be used.
Just for the
No,
license.
your license was annual.
Okay.
And then some of those inspections were annual, some of them were every 2 years. We also, required that you'd have to get not only would the inspector come and take a look at your property to make sure there's no code violations, but they'd also sign off that you don't have any open permits with the town. Our treasurer collector would sign off that all bills, any bills or anything like that was paid off. The fire department would inspect for smoke detectors and COs. So there's a lot of layers to it. A lot of people get involved in that inspection process.
But that you would pay for that as part of the permit process, so it
Right.
would be self-funding.
Right.
Yeah, so some of that is in our current application.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, a lot
Yeah,
of it,
except your current application, it's only $100.
yeah, that's
It doesn't
correct.
cover the cost.
It doesn't cover the cost, and it doesn't require as much as.
No, it's not, but the bulk of it is there, but you're right, it doesn't have all of the stuff that you do.
And the new building code, it does, again, not to make it even more confusing, the new building code for properties of 5-bedroom or more requires chapter 34 review and could require the need for a sprinkler system.
Yeah.
So, and that's building code, that's not even bylaw or regulation, that is the building code, so.
For just a new property though. Is it
Or if you,
You're
grandfathered?
converting it though.
All right,
no,
our properties are grandfathered in, aren't they?
not if they've never had if they're coming in for a license to do short-term rental, that's when.
Right, but I'm saying existing properties, I think are
Right,
already.
so
Yeah,
an existing single family.
5-bedroom house, that's
Five-bedroom
not
house is fine.
strange.
Right, but
Right.
you're changing the use, which is triggering. the
Right.
code, which would be triggering that chapter 34 review. So even an existing property, you could be required, if you want to short-term rent
Mhm.
and you have 6 or more bedrooms, you may need to bring your building up to code and install sprinklers.
So these nuisance properties that come up, who is the main person on that? Like who polices that?
Usually, so that's, the way that we proposed setting that up was that if, we put it in the regulations, basically, that if you, if neighbors call, if there's parking issues, if there's, property issues, if there's noise issues, nuisance type stuff like that, we would kind of like put it under, suspension for your first infraction. And then if it continued, you could go into like taking away their license for the rest of the year. If it continued, if you gave it back the next year and it happened again, not allow them the license in the.
Who's
town.
that point person now? Who would that be?
Right now,
was-
it was Debbie, and like in Manchester,
Oh, I'm sorry.
like who's the determining whether someone,
Right.
there's been a violation. So
Right.
you'd have to have somebody on staff to do that. Right now, Debbie had been going out on Airbnb and searching for properties that might be in violation.
In Manchester by the Sea, it says that that's the select board. In Nahat, it went through the inspectional services department, but it was the town administrator that it got elevated to me. We just started it though. We never ran into any type of major issue.
Is there any type of parking requirement?
We did include, yeah, we required off-street parking. And we required that, the guest agreement that they had to provide us when they applied for the license, so the guest agreement they would give their potential renters had to state the amount of off-street parking that was allowed, and basically tell their renters they couldn't bring more than those cars.
Yeah,
Or they'd have to find some other lot to park in and carpool or something, but
Right, I'm just thinking,
that was a big issue.
right.
Parking was a big issue.
Was that triggered because, I mean, Nahat was kind of small. I mean, I'm just trying to picture, are we describing problems that don't exist?
Well, but I think
Yeah,
not yet.
Yeah.
I mean, even in Linfield, they had one house that was being Airbnb'd and there was a nasty party there and, that was a few years back, I remember. But I think, there's two issues. There's the nuisance homes, as you describe it, Tony, but again, the other thing that triggered this was wanting to protect the new ADUs for housing stock, which I think is a different
It's a
problem.
different
Okay,
issue.
was that part? I don't remember what was struck down in our eighty.
Oh, yeah, that's right. What, something the state didn't approve.
I don't think that was in there. I don't think that was part of it.
Okay, that, I believe that the ADU bylaw that planning board did prohibit. Yeah, short-term rentals.
In the ADU, I
In
think.
the ADU. So we may have solved that problem.
Yeah.
Well,
Assuming that the.
Assuming it
Attorney
wasn't
General-
struck down, but was it struck down by the state?
and there's, if you're not, well.
Yeah.
You're not only not allowing it in the ADU, so you can build an ADU on your property. Stay in the ADU and short-term rent your main house.
Mhm.
That's it. Put ideas out there.
Not novel.
Okay.
So,
Well, I agree with you, Ann, that this project is a little larger
Are
than
there,
for us to bite off. And somebody kind of has to look at all of this stuff and say, oh, what makes sense here? Nahat had a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little too much stuff.
Yeah.
But we don't have any regulation here that's lists things like, policies while you're here. This is the emergency numbers. This is where the trash is, all of that sort of stuff. And that was kind of codified in your thing so that you leave instructions to people and they just don't show up, open the door and say, well, I'm making this up as I go along. And, somebody has to kind of look at this, spend a little time and say, what makes sense here? And consolidate things as a first pass. I don't know who that person is, or group.
the other big one that I believe is in ours as well is, someone local that can respond to an issue within a given amount of time.
Yeah.
Because we learned about a lot of short-term rentals out there in other towns that are bought up by companies out of state,
Mhm.
and so who's gonna respond, who's gonna manage the property on a day-to-day.
Right.
Well, I mean, I've rented I rent a 7-bedroom house every summer. And I know kind of what the drill is. It's my extended family, my kids and everything. And yeah, there are a lot of instructions in the house. This is in New Hampshire that tells you this is what everything is and nothing is in this.
Might I suggest that you maybe lift that next time you're there?
I can arrange.
One question is, while we're thinking over the major implications, do we want to make a change from
6 days.
6 days to 28 days,
28.
which we could do in the spring?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I'm,
There was some reason, and Susan Beckman may remember, because she was instrumental in putting this thing, the original short-term rental bylaw together. There was some reason why she thought 6 days was appropriate, but if she wanders by your office, you might ask her what that was, and if we can extend it to whatever the state considers a short-term rental, that will
Get us
give
started,
get
yeah.
us started. Yeah,
Okay,
great. Liaison updates. Yeah,
Planning board's still going over their downtown zoning. They were naming districts, possible changes of uses. Looking at an affordable aspect to it. And, tomorrow night, they're meeting for a planning session for their, walking tour on Saturday. And the only other thing, Essex Tech's working on its open house, which will be November 22nd for anybody
mhm.
interested in looking into that. And Harbor Advisory meets next week.
The Parks and Rec, I think, nothing's really changed other than we got past the Wobbling Goblin without a problem. No goblins escaped. And they're just really starting to crank up now for winter activities. And they've discussed CPA projects that they'll be looking to address. And they should be coming to us with a couple of names for the Pine Street Field recommendations for us to review. And that'll probably be next month, a couple of weeks, and then probably first of December. I think they've narrowed it down to 2, not gonna discuss them at this point, and then we can just narrow it down from there. That's the Parks and Rec zoning board. Nothing out of the ordinary, but cargo will be up on their agenda this month. As in change of use and heights and parking from behind the, so those are things that require special permits. And Concom's doing Concom things, they're just laying down the letter of the law. Secretary. Reserve anything else from there, I'm done.
Let's see, we're waiting to hear back from DPW on, getting some feedback from them on updates to the tree policy. So the Friends of Trees have submitted some changes. We want to not bring anything to the select board until DPW has some input, so, we're looking for them to, help us with that. Facilities Committee, Tiffany is outlining a nice community engagement plan. So we can get feedback from the community on location. Location is what we're focused on right now for DPW and for the public safety buildings. So Tetra Tech is the consulting firm that DPW has hired to work on these proposals and so I should say some options for the public to consider, and we're hoping to meet with them around the November 20th timeframe. So they, Chuck has given them all some marching orders and they're off working some options, and the committee is hoping to meet with them around the 20th. Let's see, nothing on downtown improvement. And Bike and Ped, so some of the residents, at least one resident from the Mill Street area has reached out to Bike and Ped to get their advice and suggestions on anything that could be done to, prevent speeding or improve safety on Mill Street. So, they've expressed concerns since it was repaved and, so they're gonna consult with Bike and Ped to see if they have any thoughts and suggestions. I think that's it.
And they should communicate with DPW. We've been working with residents on Mill
It's the
Street.
same people.
Short list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw an email. I don't
Just so that
think
we're
there's been any
staying
discussion.
consistent with
Yes,
the communication.
Yeah.
The challenge there, or a few of the challenges there is, it's a scenic roadway, and while the residents there really want to limit speeding and improve safety, they don't want to compromise the scenic nature of the road, which tends to be our way, our way to combat
contradictory.
is signage and markings and those types of things. So trying to find
Medium.
a happy medium. We talked about, we're gonna test some one lane width rumble strips right before the culvert as you're taking a right, turning away from 128 there, to see if that helps slow people down in some of those more narrow spots, but we're gonna do it slowly because they can be loud. We don't wanna have the other impact of neighbors complaining about them.
Oh, release turkeys.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. Talk about slowing down traffic. Those things,
And it's
get
scenic.
out of the
And
way.
it's scenic.
That's a really excellent idea, actually.
Scenic, criteria, and it will slow things down.
100%.
I think the
Love it.
main issue with speed is from the bridge to 128. It's the other side kind of, from there to Forest Street,
Yeah.
kind of works itself out because it's so narrow,
Okay.
but so if you're heading from
Parallel
Forest
to 128.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's where it gets, and especially coming down the other side of that hill before you hit the top.
I was hearing more from residents on the other part, but okay.
Well,
It's more.
they probably think you're going fast, but if you're going 15 through that part, it seems fast,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Cause it's so tight.
Yeah. And we also got a lot of comment or requests for, a sidewalk or a pet, how do you improve?
Yeah,
There's really no room for a sidewalk, so we are trying to look at a pathway on the golf course side, but we'd have to work with the golf course on that. I talked to the Concom or the Concom chair about it. It didn't seem like it was, depending on the details, it didn't seem like impossible, so we could maybe find a way to help with that. It's gonna take time though.
How far off the edge of the road do we own? Anything?
Well, when that turn at 128 and you start to go away from 128, we own a decent amount going in, about halfway down Mill Street. Then it's golf course land, and I don't know.
When
the
you get
exact-
onto Forest
No, still on
or
Mill.
that corner?
So if you're parallel to 128 and then the road takes a right on
Yeah.
Mill. From that corner, about halfway down before you get to Forest Street, on the right side, we own a lot of property into the woods. It's probably,
Almost up to
it's almost like
to the edge of the golf course.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the
well,
golf course is back
yeah,
there,
well,
but it's a ways in, I guess.
yeah, it's a ways in. After about halfway to Forest, from there to Forest Street, our property is much more narrow. So that's where we would have to work with the golf course to see if we can,
Yeah, it's kind of wet down in that corner there. too.
yeah, there's a couple brooks we have to find crossing, and obviously the golf course doesn't want people to be walking right behind a green. So you'd want to stay in the woods. So there's some things to look at there. See.
Yeah.
But there's a bus stop at the,
Yeah, there used to
Forest
be,
Mill.
right, there used to be a bus stop.
for a school, I think. there is.
Yeah.
So, we're working on it anyways.
Yeah, Public Works are gonna start to do some work in Newport Park. That has been a project that has kind of bumbled along, I guess, for 4 or 5 years with regard to parking for dog walkers at the end of the parking area there. But they're actually gonna start to move around some dirt and make sure that they can put some parking spots in a place that was originally looked at 3 or 4 years ago, and then it moved over by the circle, and now it's back there, and it's been kind of tough, to see how things fit together, but I'm hopeful that we'll make some, progress with that. The meters are now getting installed in high gear. We've got about 100 meters that are in, but they have 130. They're scheduled over the next 2 weeks. And it will be 130 to 150 every 2 weeks now for the foreseeable future. The contractor who is going to be installing those starts Monday. At this point, it's all been our DPW folks. And they've largely installed meters in the houses that were involved with the pilot study, of which there were 3 manufacturers that we looked at. So they've all got meters. And there are a few other people, including myself, that do. But now they're getting, they're going full bore with that. And finally, well, of course, Beach Street is done. And I think everybody thinks it's great. I would like to read into the record a comment from a satisfied constituent. I have to say, in my 43 years of living in Manchester, paving the sidewalk to the beach is the most significant act that the town has taken that positively affects my life.
Oh, that's awesome. It's kind of sad.
Now, having said that.
Take the win.
I did to that.
Exactly.
Coming down there, but I did get a complaint as to why we only paved part of the street.
Yes, I agreed. It's like one tire is gonna be on the old asphalt and the other tire is on the new.
That complaint.
They should've-
Got back in town last night, first thing this morning.
But the sidewalk's great. So,
Just drive.
and,
And that's plain and simple budget.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
it probably was.
I said, you know something, you only have so much money.
Yeah.
And that's always, I mean, for the most part, that's always a good answer.
If anything, it'll slow people down, you know, because they'll say, oh, it's a little aggravating to drive on this, and they'll go a little slower, and that's positive.
So then the comment was, well, it wouldn't have been cheaper to do it now than do it, you know, in a couple of years. Well, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money.
I will leave comments, Council on Aging to Tony, because he's kind of on top of the couple of issues that are associated with that. No news on the library or the Historic District Commission this meeting.
The Board of Health decided that the 2 Desmond Avenue is a construction project. And therefore, does not need to be habitability, just sufficient to protect the people who are working there.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Okay, maybe I'm reporting something that I.
No, it's something we brought up 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Common
just
sense.
took a while to get that.
That's good.
So, they were required to repair the wall, by the sidewalk. And as a public safety issue, the clutter, as a safety for people working in the building. And there's one other thing, that they have to have working, fire and CO2 sensors. So that people working there. So that seems like a much better solution than requiring them to meet full sanitary code, between now and the end of the month.
So some of that goes away because it's fully a construction.
Because they're not living there.
Yeah, it's not, no CO.
And they don't. Right.
Good.
And that also answers the question that they had, because they want to move a bathroom and if they had to meet the code, they would have to make holes in the roof for the current bathroom and then take that down and put something else. So this is a good resolution, I think. The FinCom hasn't met. The school committee has described a, see, sequence one. Their schedule for the budget, and I have it somewhere, yes. They have to. One. I can get that to people. And essentially, by February, we will have their final budget, and then they will get their health insurance bill, and the final budget will be filed.
Is it December 2nd?
Yeah.
Typically,
Mhm.
the first week of December will be the tentative budget.
Yeah.
And then January, they refine it, and then they close by the second week of February.
And then they get surprises.
Yeah.
And there was a meeting of a group which probably should be called a collaboration group and is currently called number crunching, which is the two chairman of the select board, the two town administrators, and the chairman of the finance committees of the two towns, started by talking about our budget. First, we got a report from the meeting about chapter 70. Apparently, every town and city in the country, in the state, has a problem because school costs rise at faster than 2.5, and they just fall behind further and further.
Mhm.
The state has a metric of the ability to pay school costs, which includes equalized valuation and income. And their conclusion for Essex was that Essex has capacity to pay $9 million and is currently paying 9.8 million, which is a problem. And Manchester has a capacity to pay 30 million and is currently paying about 16.3 million. So
What analysis is this?
this is an analysis from the chapter 70 committee. That they do, based on property values and income. And
Yeah, it goes by your dynamics of your town. What I did hear though was that they're gonna look into regional school districts and there might be some more.
Yep.
Well, who knows what's gonna end up happening there, but they're gonna take a serious look into the cost of regionalization and transportation and stuff like that, so.
And they move at a glacial pace.
Right, so. But at least the discussions are being had now, you know.
Then went into the budget outlook and everybody agreed that health insurance was a serious problem and special ed is a serious problem. And looking for ways to change the health insurance profile, try and include more high deductible plans with backup. But of course, for the school, that's something that has to be negotiated. And the negotiating team are senior teachers who therefore have more desire to have fewer deductibles. So it's hard. You were there, so if you would like to correct anything.
No, you nailed it. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. The finance committee doesn't meet every one. Okay. The consent agenda. Anybody have any?
Ready for,
I had requested a change. Did
Yes.
that get in?
it did get in.
It did get in, okay.
It got in and got back out and. we
We
have-
took care of it today.
yeah.
ready for a motion?
Mhm.
I move the select board approve this consent agenda.
Second.
Further discussion? Jeff,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Anne says yes, John,
Yes.
okay. Town administrators report.
Okay, so, starting with the Council on Aging, right now, the open enrollment begins, for the Health Connector, and we need some assistance, in the COA to, in the Council on Aging to help with some residents. We have about 8 or 9 residents already on the, like, reaching out, looking for assistance to go through the enrollment process. So we reached out to Essex. They have part-time Council on Aging, staff who are licensed or certified to assist with that. So, we spoke with Tess, she from Essex, she's gonna actually provide, we're gonna pay her to come over and help us out. So she's gonna be here, on this Friday, the 7th, and then Friday, the 21st. 4 appointments each day. Eva's working with, the 8 residents that have already reached out looking for assistance to schedule time to meet with Tess, but we, are actively trying to, kind of fill that void with some outside help, during this time. And as far as the COA director goes, we had about 13 applications. 4 candidates were interviewed by our Health and Human Services team leader and our Human Resources director. 3 of the 4 candidates are moved forward for final interview with me, which will occur this or next week. So hopefully, I don't know if it's possible, but we might, at the next select board meeting, may be voting, you might be voting to confirm an offer. If not, the first week of December. As far as the senior center goes, we had a meeting with the Masons last week. It went really well as far as talking about the different elements of the condo docs and getting on the same page. Now, both council for us and the Masons are going back to draft the language according to our conversation. And they're supposed to be getting it back to us in 3 weeks' time, so 2 weeks from now. It was a glimmer of progress. They're also initiating the process of deregistering the land. Both attorneys felt like it was important to get that done. I wish we had started the process
2 years ago.
Yeah,
a long time ago, but they're getting it going. So we're on the same page. It's really just kind of getting both councils to get the pencils sharpened and move
How
forward.
is that affecting the fundraising?
Well, fundraising really hasn't started formally.
just in a holding pattern.
It's kind of, but not just because of the condo docs. Yes, condo docs are a piece of that, but also we've been having meetings with the Friends and the board on the design of the center. Part of that that is a part of the process of fundraising too, is being able to go out there and talk about what the senior center, how it's gonna be designed, and kind of generate that positive response from that process too. So I think fundraising is informally starting, but really formally isn't gonna get kickstarted probably for another month or so.
You think you're gonna get things voted in, Mike?
Well, I think that we could get agreement between the 2 parties. The process of closing with the registry and this whole registered land element may take longer, but if we're in agreement and it's just legal process, that shouldn't hold up the kickstart of the fundraising. This capital and operational budget process, all departments have submitted their capital request to us, and they're now submitting operational requests as well. The goal is to go to the finance committee meeting on the 20th with an overview of what the approach to our capital needs are this year. There's some really big dollars involved in those requests. So at our next meeting, I'd like to do that overview with the board first. And then, so that would be the 17th, and then move to the finance committee on that week on the 20th. So I may reach out to you to sit with you individually prior to our next select board meeting, just to kind of go over all those aspects, because PFAS, dredging, you know, the COA, the senior center, if we have to front load, the rotunda, you know, there's a lot on the plate. And we have to all be on the same page of,
Really cool.
and the culvert.
Which was not on the list before.
And then last week, I attended and testified at the Joint Committee on Municipalities in support of the Governor's Municipal Empowerment legislation, which seeks to ease fiscal pressures on municipalities, reforming some of the procurement rules. We talked a lot about hybrid meetings and the open meeting law. The legislation makes what we do today permanent. Basically, the rules around open meeting law today are still temporary and born out of the pandemic. This legislation would make them permanent instead of having to revisit the legislature every so often. There's some property tax exemptions included in there for seniors that are new. And some regionalization options too, like regional board of assessors. So it's a good bill. It's all sourced from a process that the MMA held with many municipalities and listening to what are the kind of the pain points of some of the things that we do. So
Can you comment on any of the procurement improvements or?
You know, the people next to me really spoke to that. I spoke more about the open meeting law and the local tax options. So some of the local tax options that they have in there would allow us to increase some of the rates on some of the local tax options. I tried to explain to them how, as a municipality, we struggle to find revenue sources that aren't completely sourced by our residents. Those local tax options are some of the few opportunities for that. So we're in support of towns having the ability to consider an increase if they felt it was appropriate. And then I got really asked a lot of questions about the open meeting law piece. So my testimony didn't get too far down the road on procurement. The federal government shutdown and impacts to SNAP has been a really hot topic across all municipalities and across the state. In Manchester, we have 184 residents that are enrolled in SNAP. So we're working with the COA and Cheryl and I and Wendy on what type of information we can help spread or put on our website or post on social media as to what resources could be out there for folks. And then next week, Thursday, I am attending the Resilient Coast announcement in Chelsea in the morning. And then after that, going into Boston to testify at the House Committee on Federal Funding Policy and Accountability hearing. They asked for me to come and testify related to the culvert project. And as a reminder on that, we're meeting with, this week, we're meeting with our neighbors about a alternative grant proposal through MVP in a regional approach as a backup funding source for the culvert project.
And the fact that the failure would cut off electricity to the whole Cape Ann.
Yes,
Probably.
yes, exactly. So I think that I have plenty of I have plenty of other things that are on the plate that I could be doing on Thursday, but I think it is important to go to the State House, talk about how this is impacting our town. And let them know that we're applying for other opportunities. So that's all I have.
Is there a motion?
I move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
You got the motion.
Right.